Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world.
Hi, and welcome to my world. Today, we're going to be talking about trespassing and adverse possession or adverse property. In 2017, I did some classes online, and I got a diploma in legal studies. I got a couple of certificates in like employer law, introduction to marketing, and some other things. So what I've been learning, I wanted to also try to bring to you and help you to learn some law concepts. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about trespassing and adverse property. So let's get into some definitions. Trespassing, a person entering onto the land of another without permission or legal right to be there. It's a crime. It's a civil wrong or a tort. Now, the definition of tort is the infringement upon a property's owner's legal rights to enjoy benefits of ownership. Someone who interferes with another person's legal property rights. If you're interfering on my land, you're interfering with my rights as the property owner. There's three types of trespassing, which is a criminal law or a tort law. So three types of trespassing. One, trespass to the person. The person would be your body. Trespass to chattel. That would be animals or livestock. Trespass to land. That would be property or your estate. Now, California Penal Code Section 602.8 says, infractions punishable by a fine occurs when a defendant willfully enters the land of another without permission, and the land is enclosed by a fence, a gate, or there's a no trespassing sign posted. So anybody coming up on your land and they can visually see a no trespassing sign, they have not been invited there, they need to turn back around and leave. That includes people who are selling things, the J witnesses. It could even be the police. You can tell anybody that you have not invited on your land or your property that they're not legally supposed to be there. So the penalties for trespassing, it's the criminal trespassing. Criminal trespassing is related to burglary, but it's a less serious crime. It's a misdemeanor in some states, but in some states it's a felony. Entering someone's home without permission in Kentucky is 1 year and a $5 fine. So this is very serious. Civil liability charges may be filed because trespass is a violation of someone's property rights. A property owner can sue for money, even if no harm or damages were done. Okay? So, the Trespass Act. Police are subject to the act, just like everyone else is. If you're the legal occupant of a place, you can give police a trespass notice or warning to stay off your property. Police can only enter with a legal arrest warrant or a search warrant to issued by a judge. So they can't just be pulling up in your yard. You got to have a warrant and a reason to be here. You see my no trespass sign out there? That means everyone do not enter into my property without permission. Have you ever had anything missing off your land? Like right now, I don't know where my LaSalle is. LaSalle is gone. I don't know where it's at, who has it, but when people come into your place on your property, they can pick up things. They can just take things away and you not even know it. So it's very important to know who's on your land, who has permission to be there, and who don't. And if they don't, then that's a criminal law. Okay, trespass to the person involves 6 separate trespasses. So it's like a treat, assault, battery, wounding someone, mayhem, or false imprisonment. These are trespass to the person, especially false imprisonment. Wow, that's a trespass. But also assault, battery, and mayhem. Mayhem is when you maim someone, maybe cut off an arm or finger or something like that. Common law torts are the most common recognizable torts are assault, false imprisonment, and intentional or unpermitted contact. So you can, like I said, these are legal things. You can sue. Let's continue. River Ware Commissioners versus Adamson. Now, in this ruling, it says trespassing does not exist when entering land adjoining to a road unintentionally. So it can't be trespassing for every little small thing. If you're just traveling across someone's street and not intentionally, you're not stopping, you're not getting out, you're not actually walking on the land, you're just crossing the land, moving across, that's not a trespass. So don't get overly sensitive about things like that. If the land is adjoining to a road that someone needs to get to that road, then they can cross that road and get to that land, the road that they're trying to get to. So that's not trespassing. Now let's get into adverse possession trespassers. Now, a trespasser who continues trespassing for an extended period of time may earn the right to stay on the land through adverse possession. This is very important. Must be living on the land openly and make some improvements to the property. Now this is good for when you inherit land from your family, like an inheritance, but you don't have a deed. So this is very good for that situation. You move into the property, you stay there openly, everybody knows you're there, you're paying lights and water, you're fixing up the place, so you have taken over the property. It is now your property. I don't care who owned it before. Doesn't matter who has the titles, the deeds, none of that. If you are in that property taking care of that land and that place, it has now become yours through adverse possession. So if you don't want somebody to take over your shit, get them out, because after a certain amount of time, it will become theirs. Requirements. If the property has been used by someone other than the rightful owner for a number of years, adverse property may apply. Okay? Say like my auntie gave me this house. I'm on family land. What I want to say. I have been here for 13 years. I have been upkeeping the place. I have openly been here. So, although the house is on a large amount of family property, this place, through adverse possession, has become mine. Well, she gave it to me anyway, but through the law, it has become mine. Now we're going to get into the amount of years it'll take for it to actually become yours, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, adverse possession claims must meet 4 requirements. Okay, I'm back. Seems like I always have problems with my camera. The battery or the memory or something always makes me have to come back and pick up where I left off at. And I'm hoping that I left off at adverse possession claims must meet 4 elements. One is a hostile claim, which means you can occupy the land, must occupy the land, be aware of trespassing, or have an incorrect deed information. So if you're occupying the land and you know you're trespassing, that's a hostile takeover. What about actual possession? This is when a trespasser must physically be present on the land as if it is their own. That means you moved in, you're living there, you're paying your utilities, you have actual possession of the property. And 9/10 of the law, possession is 9/10 of the law. So if you're possessing something, you actually have ownership of it. Now let's go into open and notorious possession. The act of trespassing must be obvious. People got to know you're actually trespassing. You don't belong there, so it's obvious, it's notorious, and it is open. Let's go into exclusive and continuous possession, which means that the trespasser was in possession of the land for an unbroken period of time, has not shared possession with others, okay? I've been here 13 years. It's an unbroken period of time. You can't be coming back and forth. That's not adverse. Adverse possession. But if you stay there in a continuous period of time, you have taken over possession of the land. Now, you cannot be paying rent. You cannot be a tenant. You cannot be a renter. If you're paying somebody money to stay there, that's not adverse possession, and that's not trespassing. So that does not apply here. You can't say, oh, well, that's my land. I've been staying there for 40 years. No, you've been paying rent to somebody who actually owns the land. But if you're staying somewhere and you don't pay rent, like in my case, you can, and I've been here for 13 years, that's a case for adverse possession. Like I said, I think you guys might have heard this. I don't know what got cut out of the other video, but I'm on family land, a lot of land, and my auntie gave me this home, and it was not being occupied for so many amount of years. But if your land is fallow and it's idle and nobody's actually living there, taking care of the property, keeping it up, and somebody else moves in and they start doing those things, that's adverse possession. They can take your title, they can take your land because you're not doing nothing with it. So if somebody does that, then they have legal right to the title or to the land. Now, adverse possession is when someone stays long enough on a piece of property that is not theirs, and they end up owning the property. It doesn't seem fair because that was mine. Yeah, but you wasn't cutting the grass. You wasn't upkeeping the home on the property. Certain things like that matter in the community, and so you can't just let your house just drop and go be a fallow. It can be idle. If somebody moves in there, they have the legal right to own the property. When a trespasser stays long enough on property and certain requirements are met, then the trespasser is no longer a trespasser, but now the owner. Woo! Okay? So a trespasser can come and take your land. If you live out of state and you got a piece of property in another state and you don't even know what's going on with your property and somebody moves in, they've been there for a couple of years, and you might not even know it, but you haven't been keeping in touch with your land, you're not cutting the grass, you're not keeping up with the home, that's a way for a trespasser to take that property from you. Now, adverse possession is met to enable fallow or idle property that's not being used. Like I just said, this place here was not being used. Nobody lived here for a certain amount of years. I moved in. I upkept it. I keep the grass cut. I cut down trees. I don't pay rent, but I do have the utilities in my name. It was also given to me, but legally, you have to have, you can't just say, oh, I gave that to her. I don't have a deed. But it's a family property, so through adverse possession, it has become mine. Now, how to challenge adverse possession? Say, somebody that moved into my house, and what's happening? I don't want them there. 1, do not have a lawyer send a letter to the trespasser, because it will only help the trespasser establish a hostile takeover. That's you just saying, oh, you're not that. A letter from a lawyer will establish the trespasser being there. But what you do want to do is you can send a letter thanking the trespasser. Oh, thank you so much for keeping my place up and helping us. La 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 la. We no longer need your services. Cut it off. You know, in the trespasser, let the trespasser know they're no longer wanted on your property. But let's see, what was I going to say? And I had the song playing now, but do send the trespasser a letter thanking them for caring for the property. What I was going to say is it has to be within a certain amount of time. It can't be 2 and 3 years later. Do it as soon as you know somebody's trespassing on your property. If you let so much amount of time go past, then the trespasser is starting to have legal rights to be there. Okay, so land law. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Possession gives you the right to adverse possession. If you're on something and you're possessing it, you have the right to be there. You're the possessor. Nobody's coming to tell you to move. Okay? It's like this dog that I have. This guy told me, that's my dog. That's my dog. Well, how did I get your dog? How did I get your dog? I hate when people lie. But if I have your dog and I'm 9/10 in possession of the dog, it's my dog. 9/10 of the law is possession. Okay? So a landowner must assert rights of possession within a certain amount of time if the rights are not to be lost. So you don't have a whole bunch of time to be claiming that that's your property. Even if you have paperwork, you have been in City Hall and you know that's your property, you got the land name, but if you're not keeping up your property, somebody's moving in and taking over hostile, you can lose those rights. You can lose the title. You can lose the ownership of the land. Now, freehold title. The moment you take adverse possession of property, you have a title. A freehold title is based on possession. Okay? Freehold title is based on possession. So you don't have to go down to City Hall and do all the work to try to get a title and a deed, la, 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 la. If you're in possession, adverse possession of a property, you have a title, and it's called freehold title, and it's based on possession. Now, you guys own land and houses and properties. Y'all need to know this. This is very serious. You can lose your property, your land. Now, Section 17, Limitations Act of 1980, the landowner's title becomes extinguished, which means put out, non-existent, is null and void. The landowner's title becomes void. You do not transfer ownership through adverse possession. Rather, the ownership is extinguished and another ownership begins. So you're not transferring ownership through adverse possession. Rather, the ownership that you had is now voided because another person has come in and acquired the land. Now, squatter. Someone is also the same term. It's just a different word. Squatter. Someone knowingly takes adverse possession without a title. Same thing, a squatter. Just go in and sit and start move into some place and just live there. You're a squatter. Nobody tells you to move. You're going to eventually own the property. A lot of landowners don't know this. Okay, now I live in Alabama, so Alabama adverse possession laws is one. Code of Alabama 6-5-200 equals adverse possession. And the time period here is 20 years. If you're not paying taxes on the land, you can own the land. If you stay here, if I stay here, I've been here 5 or 6 more years, I will actually be the landowner of this house, because I'm not paying taxes on it. But now, if you're paying taxes on the land that you just moved into, it's only 10 years. Live there for 10 years, pay taxes, is now your land. Don't pay taxes, stay there for 20 years, it's your land. Nobody's putting you out. You're not paying rent to anybody. All you got to do is have electric, water, and lights and stuff like that in your name. That's going to establish that you've been there for a certain amount of time. Let's see. After 20 years, ownership is transferred to the trespasser. Okay, wow. So like I said, you can have property in another state, not really be caring about it or keeping it up, and someone goes in and takes it after 20 years, even if they're not paying taxes on it. It's their land. You really didn't have any interest in the land, so you lost it. Now, public land cannot be acquired by adverse possession. So you can't just start moving into a public building and think you're going to take that land. But now this is for private property. Now, in Alabama, there's 2 types of adverse possession. One is statutory adverse possession, and 2 is adverse possession by prescription. Now, your boundary dispute rulings, I got a couple of boundary dispute case rulings, which is like the boundaries or the border of your property, and someone passes across that, but they're not actually just living on your land, but they have to cross your property to get somewhere else. So I'll give you these little rulings. You can look them up yourself. And one is Reynolds versus Rutland, 1967. Lay versus Phillips, Alabama, 1964. Duke versus Wimberley, yes, Alabama, 1944. Smith versus Backus, Alabama, 1918. And Davis versus Grant, Alabama, 1911. Now, that's the end of my discussion on trespassing and adverse property, but I did want to say to you, a lot of people don't know this, and they're landowners. If you own land, you at least need to know the basics of land law. Okay, you can lose what you have just by being stupid and letting somebody move in there. They're not paying any rent. After so much time goes past, they will eventually acquire the title to the land. Okay, that's very important for those who want to have their land moved along into their family or family inheritance and things like that. You can lose it by just trying to maybe have a friend live somewhere on your property, but you're not charging them rent, and they stay there for so long. That's adverse property. You've got to have things in writing to state what your intentions are. Okay? Now, I hope this video was enlightening, especially if you own property, but I mean, even if you wanted to acquire some property that wasn't yours, now you know how to do that. Okay, so let's see what else I want to say. I guess that's it. Be smart, especially when it comes to land. There's only one earth. There's not a lot of land. Once you get it, don't sell it, don't trade it. Keep your land, because that's the most important thing. My grandfather always taught us, don't sell land. Keep your land as much as possible. Try to keep your land up. Make sure people don't come in and do these trespassing and adverse possessions. I'm also going to be talking about how the government can come and take your land. And that's going to be in another video. I can't even think what it's called. But the government can come and take your private property, but they have to compensate you with money. But they can only do that if they're going to make the land for public use. But I'll get into that in another video. It's very interesting too. So, okay, stay tuned with me. Join, come back. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, share this video, and also check out some of my other my musical videos and my songs and my creativity too. So alright guys, I'll talk to you soon. Have a good day. Love and peace. Mwah.